Hello and welcome to the Flory Models Friday Roundup Show. Here we are with you on the 25th of March 2022 and another pretty much full-on epic week. Really been able to push on really well with these two. Again, they're a bit of a slow burner getting going. We've had numerous troubles, shall we say, being polite, about the actual Hornet. The Hurricane's been an absolute dream to go through. But anyway, as you can see, we've really pushed on. The Hornet, to be honest, is just mocked up at the moment. It's all just hanging together there, but it's all ready for final assembly. We've got the weathering gone onto this one, as you'll see a little bit later. But generally, it's pretty much there now. Really, really good. We've got a few bits and pieces still to go over. We've got weaponry and fuel tanks and various things to go yet. But generally, definitely got some light at the end of the tunnel. So it is all coming together very, very nicely now. Same again with the Hurricane. The Hurricane, say, has been a dream build, really. Thoroughly enjoyed it. If you couldn't get two different kits, this one was problematic from from the get-go, really. This thing has been an absolute dream all the way through. I can't recommend this kit enough. It's been a real mojo builder and probably saved me my sanity from building that thing by doing this thing at the same time, because this thing has just flowed beautifully. This one's given us a bit of a pain all the way through. So anyway, as you can see, it all started on Monday where we did have part 9 of the Hornet up. Now, apologies for this. This is where we lost a little bit of data, shall we say, when we had a hard drive fail on us. So I've sort of made a bit of a montage out of it all. So it does sort of skip through quite a bit, if you imagine, because I've had to go back and sort of recap onto this one. But needless to say, it did go through okay. So we talk about obviously putting in the various parts onto this one and sort of getting it all ready after doing the paint. So we gone around, we did the metal areas on the front, we did the pizza box, and we touched in all the other colours after the black work went in as well. So as you can see, going through, there's those intakes that we used the high density foam about, and it worked an absolute treat as always. And then it was straight into getting the decals onto this one. Oh, sorry, nozzles. We used buffables, which really do like them. They've got a nice heavy weighted look to them. So again, you can buff them up to literally be like a mirror, or you can leave them quite textured. So I've done a little bit of a 50-50 mix on there by using stainless and dark iron for the two types of nozzle colour once those on. We also use Sharpie pens. Don't forget, these are enamels, so if you're planning on using enamel washes with them like I did, just be mindful that they will leach. I forgot all about them being enamels. And but the reason I like Sharpies is, one, they're as hard as nails once they are dry, and secondly, it's a really good strong colour. Now, as you know, I do like using the Posca pens, and I use them for pretty much cockpit detail and everything else like that. They're acrylic, and they go down really, really well. But if you want a really strong red, and obviously strong primary colours, things like that, then obviously Sharpie's the way to go. This is the ultrafine one, which is a beautiful one, and obviously they do different thicknesses of those as you go right the way through. Then it's really into the decaling. So the decaling is one of these areas where it's big areas, there's lots of it, so it's a case of take your time. Spent about 3 days doing all the decals onto this one. The biggest job was obviously getting the pinstripe to go right the way down the side, and get it to match up and be at the right levels and everything else like that, because obviously we put down the black, but we wasn't sure exactly how far down it goes and all the rest of it, so we left a little bit of room to get it in there. But anyway, it did work. It went down very nicely, and as you can see, it gives a nice strong colour. The other worry was as well that if the decal isn't a nice strong red colour and you put it over black, it's going to look, a really dark red and not really the colour we wanted. But luckily, as I said, one of the saving graces with the Revel ones, the decals are usually pretty darn good. So they all went down with no problems at all, and there she is. So decals all on. Looking very much the part. Straightforward out of the kit, decals as well, because they are nice as said before. So I do like the Black Knights markings. That's what sort of drew me to this kit in the first place. So anyway, that was those going down on there. Also, we did a little bit of post shading on the underside. As I said, the more weathering is on the bottom of this kit than certainly on the top. Being a cag bird, it's pretty well looked after. So that was a thing there. And then we went into doing the gear. So the gear, usual thing, little technique I know we spoke about last week, but black basing them. So it's one of the first times I love black basing, because it gives a really strong heavy weight, especially to thin parts like geared doors and gear. So if you're doing black first, then you put the white on, they get a real solid heavy looking colour to them. So with those put on, and then obviously going through, and as you can see, there's a little bit of that post shading underneath, it really started to come to life. So we were very, very happy of how that was going just down in there. So that was all good. Tuesday, me and Matt were on yapping. So we did something slightly different. It literally a bit of a bolt out of the blue. We basically, so both of us were going to do some work. The whole idea, we were going to work on camera, but we got chatting to you guys and things like that. So we ended up having a 2-hour informal chat, talking all things hobby related and things like that as well about it. I was speaking about how I was getting on with the Hornet. Matt's obviously working on his car at the moment as well. So that's what we were doing. So it's a really laid back, totally, say, informal type of show. So don't expect masses of things in there. It's just you literally having a few giggles. So if you are at a loose end this weekend and you want a bit of company, you could obviously stick that on. We were discussing about doing like a podcast, so this is our version of a podcast, if you like, down in there. So that's on that one. Wednesday it's back to normality and it's the PM show, so obviously all things kit related, what's new and going on in the modelling world. So it was me and Matt and we were talking all things trumpeter. So our little bit of subject matter about manufacturers, talking about trumpeter and really how they've covered everything very, very well, and they seem to get overlooked a lot. You know, obviously I've built a lot of trumpeter. If you go back through my back catalogue, a lot of them are free to watch as well. So if you want to see how trumpeter goes together, but also we were discussing things like how good they are, or certainly were a few years ago, releasing pretty much, sort of left field and right field subjects that aren't mainstream. Unless you're into that particular genre, you probably wouldn't know anything about it. So it's really nice that Trumpeter released those. But some of their golden kits, as I said, I'm going to be building the Sky Raider soon. The 30-second Sky Raider is a beautiful kit. It's really, really nice. Got their A4 there. And we were talking about all the other ones I've built, and I've pretty much working my way through their entire 30-second back catalogue, as well as other things as well. So anyway, that's all up with you. You can go off and see that one right now. And then last night we had the actual live show. Miserable looking lot. Let me mute and play. And we were talking, obviously answering all your questions and discussing lost techniques. What is a lost technique? And how some of the olden, sort of subjects and things like that are very much relevant today, and some of the old techniques as well. So, and how it sort of comes around like fashion and all those bits and pieces. So that was our little thing. And obviously we're catching up with everyone's builds as well and what they were up to on the team side of things this week. And that brings you up to today. So right up with you right now is part 10 of the actual Trumpeter Hurricane build. Again, this is the 124th kit. It is a monster and it really is very nice. So we're at that stage now. Decals are on, so it's into the weathering. So usual thing, dark dirt wash right the way over. Absolutely everywhere, and then we let it dry totally and then come back, and then obviously we start to take it all off, so it sits very nicely into the actual panel lining. But you can see at the top here how we were discussing, literally if you're very, very dry cloth, don't make it wet, or even an old sanding sponge that's worn out, you can leave it so you're left with the high areas are obviously polished clean, but the low areas give you that nice bit of texture, and that goes to the same inside the panels and everything else like that right the way through. So that's actually what we were doing just down in here, and again we ended up with this on the bottom, so it's got that nice sort of worn look to it, as you can see on there, and then obviously using it around the glasswork. So it's important to make sure you weather the glasswork as well, so it gives a nice little bit of dirt and grime in the sort of where the sort of gaskets would be and the various things like that. So that's very good. Had a bit of a nightmare trying to get the hubs on. These are rubber tyres, and it's the old form ones. This kit's about 20 years old now, so it does take a little bit of work to get those in. So the easiest thing I found to do is get a bit of boiling water, float the tyre into it, and then push the hub in. If you try and do it without softening the tyre, it won't, full stop. But also if you do, you'll make a mess of the tyre. And then also by putting the hub back in the boiling water afterwards, once it's in there, it will reseat itself and it will seal it up. So if you've ever had that thing where you've pushed on a rubber tyre and there's a gap around it and things like that, by putting them back in boiling water with the expansion and then the contraction as it sort of cools down, it will reseal itself onto there. So quick little tip on that one. And then getting them back glued in. Again, we were talking yesterday, Contactia glue is brilliant for this. It's not messy, it does exactly what it says on the tin, and it's got a far more stronger grip on gear especially than if you were to be using extra thin. So although extra things have been nice and neat, for this type of gear on 24th scale, you need something with a bit of bite in there. So if it does take a knock or anything else like that, it's going to go absolutely nowhere. So anyway, that was those ones all going in, and then lining it up, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to use the old Mark 1 eyeball to see exactly, to make sure the actual gear is all in the right place, and then literally leave it for a couple of hours to dry like that before you attempt to move it. So that's exactly what we were doing just down in there. And again, she turned out very nicely. Very happy with the way the camo's gone on this one. Used AK Real colours, and I love them. They just work really well. Faded and back, a little bit of post shading, things like that down in there. And we've ended up with this. So she's very much looking the part now. Next week, it's just going to be a case of really pushing into it. So we'll be going through, obviously, using a little bit of oils around all this one. Just general wear and tear right the way over. And then obviously what we're going to do is we're going to detail up this engine. So we're going to add some more plumbing to it, a little bit more wiring to make it a little bit more authentic in there. And then it'll be a case of aerials, final bits and pieces going onto this one, and then this one will be completed. So it's turned out to be quite a dream build, really. So very, very happy of how it's been going. And here she is. So yes, again, this is one of those ones, and I know I harp on about it every week, but sometimes you'll build a kit or work on a project and you're not quite sure, because people like, you know, Matt's built this particular kit before, and I know a few other people have built this one and they've said, oh, I've done it, it's a good kit, but that's all you get. You don't get like it's a Tamiya or a Zukamori or something else saying, oh, it's a fantastic kit, it's amazing. Everyone just described it as a good kit. And it's a shame, because it's so much more than that. It's a really good, solid kit. Okay, it's got no frills. You haven't got a ton of photo etch into this one. We haven't gone completely overboard. All we've really done with this one is stick an aftermarket instrument panel into it, because, to be honest, the kit one's horrible. And we've put some harnesses into it. The rest of it's pretty much out of the box. We have got some aftermarket guns to go in there, and I think that's going to make a big difference to it. But it's been one of those builds from the start to as we are now, and it's going to be right the way through to the end, has been a really enjoyable, straightforward. We've had no bad experiences. We've had no real massive gaps. We've had a little bit of filler to do, but you'd expect that on pretty much every kit. But it'll be one of those which I will look back and say, and I would highly recommend to anyone, especially if you're into the bigger scales, like 24th scale. It is a big lump, but boy, is it impressive. It really is a very, very nice aircraft to work on. It's a good, solid construction, and things like the gear and stuff like that. It's got a good feel to it. It's nothing flimsy. Can't say the same thing for that thing. The gear on that is very flimsy, and it could do with beefing up with a bit of metal if we're honest. But anyway, we're sort of there with that one now. Quick question I want to answer, because I get asked a lot. For some reason this week's gone completely ballistic, and that's about how to get onto the forum. So it's one of those things where obviously people often talk about getting onto the forum. You have to be a Flory Models member, and that opens up an entire, you know, plethora of everything into you. So obviously you get to see all the video builds, because obviously you don't see them unless it's on a free to watch type thing. So with those, but also you get into our community. So we've got around about 2,500 members from right the way over the world. Different levels as well. We've got master modelers down to guys coming brand new into it, and for those that have joined back into the hobby and all things like that. There is a price to pay. I've never made any, you know, hidden this out anywhere, and we've done. But if you do want to find about it, if you just pop over to the actual area, so if you go at the top here, it says subscribe, and it talks about it down in there. One of the easiest ways to use, as we do now, we use Patreon. It's £4 a month, all right, and that's literally it. There's a Q&A thing video you can see down in there, and everything we do now, and we have done for the last year, now goes up onto Patreon as well. So you don't have to come into the site and all the rest of it. You can just literally, every video that we've done is down in here, and they're all linked through as well and things like that. So it's pretty good. But once you've done that, you do get full access to the forum, and as I say, all the membership. So if you ever wondered about, obviously, and I've been asked about a lot recently, is things like the auctions we do, when we do the pre-orders and things like that for people, and the special pricing and things like along those ilks, that's all in the forum. That's all in these areas. So if you ever wondered why we're talking about it and you can't seem to find it, this is where it is. So like at the moment, we've got a couple of things up here, and I'm just trying to find the two new ones that are up, but for some reason they're not in the right orders. There we go. So we got just added 2 new pre-orders up with really good prices. So it's only £57 as well for the Trumpeter Sky Raider. So this is the D version, the later version that we've got coming in, and also that PM at the moment are doing a one for the Tram. There it is. So we've got one up here for the Tram as well, and again, great price on that. Should be 150 quid. We're doing it for a member special at just, well, basically 95 quid plus your postage on top. All right, so if you ever wondered when we're talking about all these things, that's where it all is. And as I say, small price to pay, but as I say, that's how we work it just down in here. Speaking of things from PM Models, this weekend they've got a bit of a special going on for AFV club kits, so it's 12% off. The discount gets added at checkout, so you basically just come down in here, you come to your AFV, there we go, and you just pop in here, And there we go. So the price that you see on here will then be discounted 12% when you go into checkout. So some of those great kits we've been talking about it. John's just been working on one and those types of things as well. So if you do want to get a little bit extra, that is off down in there. So again, it's all those great kits and bargains that you can get. A couple of other things as well just to mention is that the Fujami F4s that we had up on special as well on the pre-order, it's your last minute for that one. And if you are interested in the actual Trumpeter 32nd Sky Raider and the Tram A6 Intruder, let us know this weekend, because I think Matt's probably could put the order in on Monday, because we've got a bit of a limited window on that one. We didn't know much about it, but we need to get the order in and then get them all shipped over because they're coming from abroad. So let us know ASAP on that one if you could. Pop into the forum, you can see all about those just down in there. And that is about it for this week. A busy old week, as I said. I'm going to be doing pretty much working all weekend as well. So these will be pushing along very nicely. As you might know, we're working on the Great Wall Hobbies F15E Strike Eagle, the Mud Hen as well. So that's going to be our next video build up with that one once these two are completed out of the way. So if I get a good run on these this weekend and next week, we'll be starting on the Mud Hen probably the beginning of the month, beginning of April, as we make our way through. So that's it from me. As always, on a Friday, I'm going to leave you with your great work from the gallery. So until next week, happy modelling. Take care.
I was not ready to falling like I'm wasted. My heart grows heavy.